So this is part 2. So we had left off in the 1970s where two authors had kind of built up this idea of what the International Criminal Court could look like. It didn't get picked back up again until June of 1989. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, A.N.R. Robinson, revived the idea of permanent international court by proposing the creation of a tribunal to address the illegal drug trade. In response, the General Assembly asked the ILC with once again drafting a statute for a permanent court. While they were making the drafts, the UN Security Council had established 2 ad hoc tribunals in the early 90s. One for the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, created in 1993, response to large-scale atrocities committed by armed forces during the Yugoslav wars. The second one was the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda and the genocide that happened there in 1994. The creation of these tribunals further highlighted to many the need for a permanent international criminal court. In 1994, the ILC presented the final draft statute for the International Criminal Court in the General Assembly and recommended a conference be convened to negotiate a treaty that would serve as the court's statute. To consider major substantive, I can say words, issues in the draft statute, the General Assembly established the Ad Hoc Committee on the establishment of an International Criminal Court, which met twice in 1995. After considering the committee's report, the General Assembly created the Preparatory Committee on the establishment of the ICC to prepare a consolidated draft text. From 1996 to 1998, 6 sessions of the Preparatory Committee were held in the United Nations headquarters in New York City. During the NGOs provided input and attended meetings after the umbrella organization, the Coalition of the International Criminal Court. In January 1998, the bureaus and directors, so this part's like all the technical stuff, right? But on July 17th, 1998, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court was adopted by a vote. That vote went 120 countries to 7, with 21 countries abstaining. The 7 countries that voted against the treaty were China, Iraq, Israel, Libya, Qatar, the US, and Yemen. Now, Israel opposed because the treaty stemmed from the inclusion in the list of war crimes, the action of transferring population into occupied territory. A provision added during the Rome Conference at the insistence of Arab countries with the specific intention of targeting Israeli citizens. The UN General Assembly voted on December 9th, 1999, and again on December 12th, 2000 to endorse the ICC. Following 60 ratifications, the Rome Statute entered into force on July 1st, 2002. The International Criminal Court was finally. Now, I just want to add here too that it also should be remembered that this came into being accepted and the ICC was created and enforced and accepted in 2002. In 2001, we had just had 9/11. So there was no way that Bush wanted to be part of this. We wanted to go after Osama bin Laden, and we wanted to be able to pursue whatever that meant. So we didn't want to be held accountable to that. The first bench of 18 judges was elected by the Assembly of States Parties in February 2003. They were sworn in at the inaugural session of the court on March 11th, 2003. The court issued its first judgment in 2012 when it found Congolese rebel leader Thomas Lubanga Diallo guilty of war crimes related to using child soldiers. Lubanga was sentenced to 14 years in prison. In 2010, the states parties of the Rome Statute held the first review conference of the Rome Statute. The review conference led to the adoption of 2 resolutions that amended the crimes under the jurisdiction of the court. Resolution 5 amended Article 8 on war crimes, criminalizing the use of certain kinds of weapons in non-international conflicts. whose use was already forbidden in international conflicts. Resolution 6, pursuant to Article 5(2) of the statute, provided the definition and procedure for jurisdiction over the crime of aggression. When the ICC began operations in 2002, the entry into the force of the Rome Statute, a multilateral treaty that serves as the court's charter and governing document, was used. States which became party to the Rome Statute became members of the ICC, serving on the Assembly of States Parties, which administers the court. As of January 2025, there are 125 ICC member states. 29 states have signed but not ratified the Rome Statute, including 4 who have withdrawn their signature. 41 states have neither signed nor become parties of the Rome Statute. The ICC is intended to serve as the court of last resort. It complements existing national judicial systems and may exercise its jurisdiction only when national courts are unwilling or unable to prosecute criminals. It lacks universal territorial jurisdiction and may only investigate and prosecute crimes committed within member states. Crimes committed by nationals of member states or crimes in situations referred to the court by the United Nations Security Council. Now, the ICC has indicted hundreds of people, among them being Joseph Kony, Omar al-Bashir, Laurent Gbagbo, I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right, Jean-Pierre Bemba. These are just a few. And like I said, there are several more. They hide out in other countries, and if those countries aren't willing to cooperate with the ICC, even though there may be a warrant out for the arrest of that person, or they are asking for that person to be turned over very non-aggressively, a country that doesn't adhere to these statutes may refuse. March 17th, 2023, the ICC judges issued arrest warrants for Russian leader Vladimir Putin and the Presidential Commissioner for Children's Rights in Russia, Maria Lvova-Belova, for child abductions in the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia denounced the arrest warrants as outrageous. Putin became the first head of state of a UN Security Council permanent member to be subject of an ICC arrest warrant. Although Russia withdrew its signature from the Rome Statute in 2016 and is thus not a participant in the ICC nor under its jurisdiction, Putin can be charged for actions against Ukraine, which is not a party but has accepted jurisdiction of the court since 2014. Should Putin travel to a state party, he can be arrested by local authorities. Later in 2023, Russia's Ministry of International Affairs retaliated by placing several ICC officials on its wanted list. In March 2024, the ICC issued 2 more arrest warrants for Sergei Kobylash, the commander of the long-range aviation of the Russian Aerospace Forces, and Viktor Sokolov, the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, over their role in war crimes in Ukraine. Part 3 will be up next.